Welcome back to Mortgage Giants. I'm tall.
No, I
He's
want to say
taller.
it.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
tall. You're tall. I'm taller.
There you go. Okay.
That's why you say it, I guess.
You just have to change the words around.
Yeah. So, uh, do another kind of more specific episode, I think, just to
Yep.
talk about a niche um, purchase style, and that would be raw land.
Mm-hmm.
I think just being from central Alberta, there is always been a high, attraction to living in the country.
Yep.
Acreage living, farm life,
Yep.
all that has always just been part of kind of our culture.
Yep.
The way that probably like a lot of us are maybe only like one generation removed from farmers.
Yep.
And so I think there's always that appeal
Yep.
of, acreage living. And then COVID threw gas on that.
Yep.
When people were looking for more space, uh, just to like distance themselves from their neighbors, like all of that was kind of an opportunity for people to revisit that interest.
Yeah.
And land prices, acreage prices, I should say, definitely rose. I'm not
Right.
sure about the raw land as far as pricing per acre and all that, but acreage, the desire was there,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just amplified.
But even for raw land, there was a desire there because if you had like a second property that was raw land, now you could do quadding or snowmobiling or whatever and just have more things to be able to do.
Yeah.
So you're not tied to just in your house.
Yeah, and as now inflation, price of travel, hotels. Man, I was booking a flight like somewhere recently, and I swear there are a pile of new airport taxes. Like
Really?
we were looking to go to Arizona, and there's a new airport tax for Arizona. I think like a $50
just specific to
fee for new airport. And I was like, that's new. I'm not that out of touch. Like I feel like I would have noticed that last time. So there's all these things. Everything's more expensive, right? So people are maybe looking at that too as saying, we're staying closer to home. We're vacationing closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
We were actually in Drumheller 2 weekends ago and talking with one of the local store owners. And he said that the travel from Edmonton and other parts of Alberta is way up.
Oh, yeah.
Just as people are staying out of BC. And BC is the fires. There's a whole other conversation. But just generally cost-wise, places like Drumheller all of a sudden become more affordable.
Yeah.
It was great for us. We went with 4 other families. We all have small kids, so driving time and distances are a bit of a challenge. Yeah. So it was perfect. It was awesome. We had a great time. So buying land down there, in the coulee, you got some topography. It makes for a great little, destination.
Yeah.
But land and buying land is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
The starting point for raw land is a 25% down payment.
And we say starting because it could go up from there.
That is like benchmark baseline, start at 25%. If the property is, after an appraisal is done, then the bank will determine if 25 is safe. They feel like, land values in the area are stable, whatever.
Yeah.
So always plan 25% minimum down payment.
Yeah.
And then that land comes at a different type of mortgage. It is based on prime plus 2%.
Yeah.
That's kind of standard between ATB, Service Credit Union, who are kind of the bigger land players.
Yeah, no fixed rate option.
No.
Yeah.
No. And it's expensive. Prime plus 2 is crazy. Like that's like almost personal loan rates.
Yeah.
But the goal is that the banks don't want people just to sit on raw land forever. Yeah. There should be a plan to build, to put a structure on it and make it a true recreation property and not just land. So,
and that goes into the story of the application. Like the lender wants to know those details.
Yeah, they do want to have an idea on timeline, plan, usage, all that stuff. So they do not want to see people hold raw land forever at those rates. They would rather than see the person present plans to build, and then we would start a new application for likely a draw mortgage.
Yep.
And then on day one of that approval of the draw mortgage, construction loan, that land loan is paid out.
Yeah.
So then that goes away. And now we're into a best rates residential mortgage,
Yeah.
long-term product again.
Yeah.
And the way to do that now, to take this a little bit further, is let's say you buy the land and you put the 25% down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so the land was $400,000. You've put in now $100,000, and you go to build.
Mm-hmm.
The build plans for your cabin are also $400,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so now bank's gonna do a new appraisal. We're gonna submit the plans, the specs, the budget, everything from the builder, and they're gonna go and they're gonna send an appraiser out again and say the land is worth 400. We were okay with that valuation at the time of purchase. Great. The cost to build is $400,000. A plus B equals 800,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you've got $100,000 into it. That will count towards your down payment.
Yeah.
So now you've got $100,000 into an $800,000 project. In a perfect world, you put in another 100,000, 80,000. At least to then still maintain and avoid paying insurance.
Yeah.
Mortgage insurance.
Yeah.
But you don't have to.
Right. Yeah. You can go either way.
You could qualify. We could qualify you for a $700,000 mortgage.
Yep.
No problem. If you qualify, great. You don't need to put any more money in.
Yep.
You've already put in the 100 when you bought the land, and that does count as your down payment.
Yep.
So it's great, and that's usually what we see. Is we try to structure it in a way that people put the most down at the time of land purchase.
Yeah.
Because the rate is so freaking high that we need to keep the costs down.
Yeah. For the smallest mortgage on that.
Yeah. So then ideally the amount that you put in originally is all you would need to commit to the final project.
Yeah.
That's a general and smooth way of kind of buying land with the intent to build.
Yeah. And you might be asking, like, why does the lender need to know those future plans? And when we talk about like COVID increased the desire to have some of the raw land, they're sitting on a big book of raw land that's not doing anything.
Yeah.
So now probably more so than a couple of years ago, they want to know more of the story and more of the plan to how you are actually going to get out of this.
Yeah, and it's marketability too, because again, there's a bit of a rush on land and acreage living, but that may be cooling.
Mm-hmm.
And if it does cool, let's say it's not, it's just kind of maintaining.
Mm-hmm.
If that cools, that desire and demand for raw land cools, because building a house isn't for everybody.
Yeah,
like it is not for me. I'll tell you, like
no, definitely not.
Like there's amazing builders out there, and they do their best. Like they're incredible at their job. But like for me, like the thought of building a house on raw land and doing all of that's an endeavor.
Oh
like,
yeah,
that is
the whole process is yeah.
So we love you, home builders.
It's for certain people, but it's just not for me.
Yeah. Now, if that cools, if that market cools, now there's people are sitting on an expensive monthly, amount, and the land is depreciating in value.
Yeah.
And it's about marketability.
Yeah.
How long will raw land sit if that person needs to offload it?
Yeah.
And it is a lot longer than a single family detached house in town.
A lot longer.
So that's why they need such a cushion. They don't want to have a thin margin so that if a person does get into a bind and they need to sell it, that they sell it and they are upside down on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why the buffer needs to be there with a minimum of 25%. And again, it's just it's marketability.
Yeah.
It's just how long is that property going to sit before somebody comes around with bigger dreams and has the same vision you did last year.
Yeah.
But is actually going to, try and get it done.
Yeah.
That's the risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the building side of things, I'm not sure how much it's the case now, but there was an element of everything costing more. So all of a sudden you start at this build price, demand became too high. Now not everything is available. They have to charge this. And now
when you bought the land, build price was X. Now it's X plus 30%. It's like,
right.
I was with fantasy football draft on the weekend, um, which went incredible. All the guys in my league are toast.
You're winning it.
They don't even stand a chance. But friend, home builder there, Sunny Valley Homes, shout out to Serge. He was talking about costs, the roller coaster that he's been on over the last couple of years, where it'd start out and a builder would really only be quoting wood. Material costs as wood.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden wood went through the roof, and then all of a sudden they had to go back and go back to the builder, the buyer, and say, we need to maybe consider steel,
right?
Or something else, like,
Yeah.
because wood was too much. And then so talk about massive differences when you don't even know if you're building a structure out of wood or or steel or concrete.
Yeah.
Because all three became more viable at one point or another over the last couple of years.
Yeah. I actually had a client who was doing the building process through that COVID time, and it went up so much that the builder gave them an out. Like, for us to do this is now 50 grand more. We understand that's a lot. So here's this letter, read through. If you want to move forward, we will need this much more. If not, you can take the deposit and pull out. And the clients ended up doing it because they didn't want to undertake 50,000 extra.
So they did pull out.
So they did pull out. But I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So there are risks, and I mean, contingencies are huge whenever you're, I mean, $50,000 on a $600,000 build, like from a percentage standpoint, that's not significant,
right?
But when it's a dollars and cents conversation, it is very significant. Yeah. So you got to make sure you're well prepared going into a project like that, and it works out great because, like, we use the previous example, 400,000 in land value plus 400,000 in build cost, which unfortunately today is not going to get you much. But the end result might not be 800; it might be 900.
Right.
It might be 950,000. Like, you have such a high potential to create equity by doing that. Yeah. So that's definitely the upside.
Yeah.
When you buy a house, the price is what the market's telling you it is, and your realtor negotiates that price for you, and you feel good about that number. But on the land and build, there is more upside. It really could create some built-in equity. Yeah. But you're gonna earn it.
Yeah, for sure.
You're gonna earn it.
Yeah. Now, switching topics a little bit on the price side of things, I don't know if you've seen this out there as much in talks, but it seems as though people are still like just complaining and drastically like put out by the fact that it's so expensive to buy a home. And I wonder if it's because the media seems to push these giant numbers that usually only are attached to certain areas of the country, like the Greater Toronto area, Greater Vancouver area, maybe a little bit of Calgary right now. But there is still very good and decent homes in those other provinces, and even in those same provinces, just further out, for a reasonable price. Like, maybe you just don't have to live at the downtown core. Like, you don't need the $1 million condo. Maybe a detached home 30, 40 minutes away can do. I don't know. It seems like prices are crazy or too much, but there's still, yes, I don't want to downplay that prices are, but like, there's still a lot of good properties that are available. I shouldn't say a lot, I guess.
No,
but there are good properties.
There absolutely are. And I mean, you're just going to continue to see people move out. That whole drive to qualify, you keep driving until you find something that suits the family. But generally, I mean, there are some unrealistic expectations on what we want to get out of our homes right now. Do you need 2,700 square feet?
No.
Does 2,100 work?
Or does 1,200 work, right? Like,
I was having a conversation with somebody the other week as well, and they said something that really stood out to me. They have young children, and they live in a nice sized home, acreage, and they were considering downsizing, but for a new reason.
Okay.
The reason was that they weren't sure if they needed to set that precedent of what a home should be to their young children.
Oh.
They weren't sure if they wanted their kids to grow up thinking that this is what a standard
Mm-hmm.
home is.
Yeah, I like that.
I was very much like I was interested in that, and now because I have a baby as well, it was because we grow up thinking that whatever we are surroundings are in,
Yep.
that's normal.
Right.
This is only normal. This is the only thing we know, so
Yep.
that becomes normal.
Yeah.
So we need to maybe look at that and say, why do I think that that square footage is normal?
Mm-hmm.
Why do I think that I need that? And that might help, understand maybe boiling it down to what the needs versus want is.
Yeah.
And if you live in a great community like that has the amenities, has the park system, has the trail system.
Yeah.
I mean, look at people who are living in Toronto, like square footage is tight,
Yeah.
but they don't spend time in that home. In the dead of winter, they might.
Yeah.
But let's use Vancouver as the
Mhm.
example then.
Yeah.
The island.
Yeah.
They are maximizing their outdoor time and using their community as extended living space.
Yeah.
If you start to do that, maybe you're okay with a little less square footage.
Yeah.
And a better price point and all those things that come with it.
Yeah.
Utilities, taxes.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
my wife and I, we downsized.
Yeah.
Like purposefully to save on costs in our new house, and feel like that sometimes is the right move. Doesn't have to be about like an ego thing of, well, I need to maintain a certain size of home or anything like that.
Yeah, like frick, buy a hot tub. Like if you need to spend more, if you want to expand your livable square footage
Mm-hmm.
in the winter, maybe you don't need to spend an extra. You got to spend 100,000 less on a house, 150,000 less on a house, and maybe put 40 grand into the backyard.
Yeah.
Buy a hot tub, get a gazebo, like fire pit.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Finish the basement. Maybe you want a theater or like pool room, whatever. Like there's lots of things that you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are, and honestly, out of necessity, it breeds creativity.
Mm-hmm.
People start to maximize smaller spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go to any of those older cities, San Francisco, or places where people have run out of room a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that's where you see creativity.
Right.
I mean, people learn how to use their space to its fullest.
Yeah.
And I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
When we don't need to maximize, or when everything's comfortable, and everything's just cushy, there's literally, it stalls innovation.
Mm-hmm.
I think in history, you look at where some of these very cool, inventions and, things really accelerated. It was often out of necessity.
Yep.
So, I think that's positive. That's something that would come out of, reevaluating maybe square footage, and you could do something really cool. You might surprise yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know.
So, cool.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.
See you next week.